All right, so now that you've gone through and understand how to get the CAD elements, what we want to get next is the LandXML file. The LandXML file is basically the points in a project, the alignments in a project, the corridor in a project, the surfaces, as well as even utilities and pipe networks. So if you were to go or have the Civil 3D drawing exported as a LandXML file, you can see that you can select all the information, put it in one file, or you could actually just pick individual objects, such as a specific surface or a specific group of points. Couple things to note about this under settings in Civil 3D. If I right click and go to drawing settings, if I export this out as international feet, or this setting set to international feet, that's going to put a unit variable on that Civil 3D XML project, or that Civil 3D XML file. You'll see here this linear unit is set to foot, or is set to foot. If you bring that to Business Center and your Business Center project is US Survey foot, then Business Center will scale this because it's looking at this variable saying, hey, you're in international feet, my project's in US Survey feet, therefore I'm going to scale. The quickest way to tell is you'll see that your CAD data, if you bring it in, and your XML data when you bring it in don't line up. Okay, so you can fix it. There's a tool, you can do it in a regular notepad, just open it up with notepad, or there's this XML notepad that you can get, and what you can do here is open it up and you can go to the units, and in the units you can come over here to where it says foot, click on that, change it to US foot, and save this XML, and then close it, and now you'll see that the units is set here to US foot. Alright, so right in this area here. Okay, now you want to make sure when you export it that this is set to foot. A lot of people, if there's no datum or no coordinate zone set to it, that's defaults to international feet. They didn't change it, and that's usually where you run into a problem. So you want to make sure of that. Now, if I go into Business Center here, and I bring in this, let me cancel this, and I bring in this file again. All right, so I'm going to bring in this Civil 3D Project XML, my US foot. I'm just going to drag and drop it in. You'll get this, and this is asking you to bring in points and break line definition of any surfaces, or triangle based, or both. I typically choose both because the objects that were used to build this surface, or the surface members, will come in to Business Center, and then you will also get a surface of how the user in Civil 3D defined that surface. Meaning that if I go to the prospector here and we look at the surface, if I was to look at the pad surface here, the definition, you can see that I've got some break lines. So it's going to bring in those break lines as 3D line strings inside of Business Center, or 3D CAD lines in Business Center. If I made any edits, and an edit is an adding a line, deleting a line, swapping an edge, adding points, minimizing flat areas, any of these edits that you see here that have been applied to that surface in Civil 3D will stay when using the triangle-based definition. It's going to maintain the triangulation that the designer, surveyor, engineer, whoever did it, wanted that surface to look like, wanted the faces to look. The points and break line definition in Business Center, what Business Center is going to do is it's going to take those points and break lines, and it's going to build a surface using those points and break lines. So I typically bring in both, and then that way you can decide which one you want to work with. All right, so I'm going to bring this in, and you're going to see the results that I get from this LandXML file. Basically what's going to happen is surfaces become surfaces, alignments become alignments, points become points, pipe networks become pipe networks, And those are pretty much the main objects that will come over in a LandXML file from Civil 3D to Business Center. So we'll just give this a minute to process, and then I'm going to go and you can see here it's asking me for my project definition, the points, because I've got points now that I brought in from this LandXML file. So again, it's processing all this data. All these lines that show up are from the corridor are going to be stored cross sections. They're usable. They're nice to have, but I'll be honest with you, I normally just turn them off. So let's take a look just at the LandXML file, which is this guy here. We'll turn that off, and you're going to see that we get you get a bunch of stuff from the LandXML file. Notice that we get all the points. If we take a look in 3D, you'll see that I got a bunch of surfaces. So if we turn off the points, just turn off the display of those. So all the points came in. I've got surfaces, so there's the existing ground surface, or one of them anyways. Okay. If we look over here, you can see the surface. There's a couple different surfaces there. Notice all the flags. Those basically are because it's trying to recreate surfaces from all these stored cross sections. But if we take a look at the Project Explorer, you'll see that we've got all the alignments that were used. Even if they built an intersection, there's alignments through these intersections that are useful. There's profiles if the alignment has a profile associated with it. The surfaces, you'll see that you get a bunch of surfaces, especially on a corridor. You get all these curved tops and everything. I normally would delete those because you can see they basically just create a bunch of different surfaces. There's a surface here for the datum of the road. There's different ones. You can see there's a surface just for the datum of this return. So normally what I would do is just come in here and pick all these bases. You can see there's a base for each corridor, so maybe those are good. The curbs, maybe I want those. It all depends on what you're going to want, but normally I go back to just some of the raw data and use that, especially the alignments and the surfaces. And then you can also see you get all the points. So again, when you get the LandXML in combination with the CAD file, you're going to have all the information you need to build your model for data prep, stakeout, or even takeoff. So the proxy graphics, again, going back to that one, that's critical information. And then also the LandXML file. If the person you're working with, the engineer, contractor, whatever, if they give you the original source drawing of the existing conditions, their utility design, their site design, their road corridors, and then an XML that goes with each one of those drawings, you're going to have more than enough information to work with. And we'll show you in other videos and later videos how to manipulate and use this information most effectively. All right, so this is the LandXML file. These are the results. The LandXML file export doesn't have any bearing on whether the drawing set with Proxy Graphics 1 or 0. It's basically taking the Civil 3D objects, putting them into a generic format that any other program can read. So LandXML is kind of like if you want to think of it as a CSV file for text data or point data, but it packages everything and other programs read it the way that it was designed in the original source program itself. Okay. So again, LandXML and Proxy Graphics are key when getting data from Civil 3D.